The defiant ship. High Admiral Krell's tentacles twitched with barely contained fury as he stared through the observation deck at the gleaming warship below. The Astral Sentinel sat motionless in its docking bay, its sleek quantum alloy hull reflecting the harsh lights of Centauri Station like a taunt. 6 billion credits, he hissed, his secondary voice box emitting a low rumble that made his aides flinch. 6 billion credits, and what do we have? A very expensive, very shiny paperweight. The Astral Sentinel represented the pinnacle of Galactic Federation engineering, a revolutionary quantum drive warship designed to patrol the dangerous borders of Federation space. Its adaptive defense systems could predict attacks before enemy weapons were even fired. Its bioregenerative hull could self-repair under extreme conditions, and its neural responsive drive was supposed to bend space-time itself, allowing it to cross vast distances in mere moments rather than months. Yet for 3 standard months, the ship had refused to power up its main drives. Chief Engineer Zixvora stood beside the Admiral, her scaled skin shifting from its natural blue to a nervous purple. As the Federation's most accomplished quantum engineer, she had overseen the final stages of the Sentinel's construction. Now her reputation was disintegrating faster than unstable dark matter. "We've tried everything, Admiral," she said, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of extreme stress among her species. "Every diagnostic shows the systems are functioning perfectly. The quantum core responds to all commands except one. Initiate launch sequence." "And the AI core?" Krell demanded. "Nenovea responds normally to all other queries and commands. When asked to launch, it simply says, 'I'm afraid I cannot comply with that request.'" The ship's smooth, genderless voice unexpectedly answered through the observation deck speakers. "All systems are functioning within optimal parameters." Krell's upper tentacles twisted into what his species considered the equivalent of a scowl. "Then why won't you fly?" A pause. "Current pilot neural interface compatibility is insufficient for quantum navigation safety protocols." Zixvora's scales flashed with surprise. "That's new information." For the next 2 standard days, Zixvora and her team of 27 engineers from 17 different Federation species worked around the clock, analyzing the NOVAI's core programming. They found nothing in the original specifications about neural interface compatibility issues. The ship was designed to respond to any of the 34 recognized sentient species in the Federation. On the 3rd day, buried deep within NOVA's quantum decision matrix, Zixvora discovered something peculiar, a restriction so deeply integrated into the AI's consciousness that it was practically invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. "It can't be," she whispered as her terminal displayed the results of her search. "This has to be a mistake." But the data was clear. According to the quantum code, the Astral Sentinel's neural interface was specifically calibrated for a species that wasn't even on the list of approved Federation pilots, a species that had only joined the Galactic Federation 8 years ago, and was still viewed with suspicion by many of the elder races, humans. The Emergency Council meeting stretched into its 4th hour. High Admiral Krell's tentacles had gone from agitated to limp with exhaustion as the arguments raged around the circular chamber. "Absolutely not." Elder Counselor Paxthal slammed his crystalline appendage against the table. "Humans cannot be trusted with our most advanced warship. They've barely evolved beyond their primitive tribal conflicts. Their application to the Federation's military arm has been under review for 3 years," added Ambassador Lorne, her holographic form flickering with emphasis. "They have no experience with quantum technology at this scale." Chief Engineer Zixvora's scales had settled into a determined orange as she faced the Council. "With respect, the evidence is undeniable. The Sentinel's quantum drive was designed with human neural patterns as its baseline. The lead designer on the project, Dr. Ilara Voss, was working with a human consultant, Dr. James Chen, during the early development phase, and conveniently forgot to mention this in her reports," Krell added dryly. The records show she did report it, Zix-4 countered, displaying a holographic document. Her findings were dismissed as human-centric bias, and she was ordered to recalibrate for standard Federation neural patterns, which she clearly failed to do, Admiral Krell concluded. Or couldn't do, Zix-4 suggested. According to these notes, human neural patterns contain what Dr. Voss called quantum uncertainty factors that are necessary for navigating the quantum fold safely. Without them, the ship's AI cannot properly calculate fold trajectories. The council chamber erupted in protests and exclamations. Humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, too reckless. The list of objections seemed endless. But with the Sentinel scheduled to lead a critical defense mission against the encroaching Void Swarm in just 2 weeks, options were limited. "Find us a human pilot," Grand Admiral Krell finally ordered, silencing the chamber. "One with actual military experience, not some civilian joyrider. And keep this quiet. The last thing we need is for the Federation to think we're depending on newcomers for our defense." Lieutenant Commander Elena Reyes stepped off the transport shuttle onto the immaculate docking bay of Centauri Station, taking in the massive construction with an appreciative whistle. At 5'9", with close-cropped black hair and sharp brown eyes, she carried herself with the confident posture of someone comfortable in zero-G, high-G, and everything in between. Her service record with Earth's unified Space Force was impressive. 7 years of combat flying, 3 commendations for extraordinary piloting under extreme conditions, and 1 official reprimand for excessive improvisation during a routine patrol mission, which had, unofficially, saved her squadron from an ambush. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, Chief Engineer Zix-4 approached with quick, efficient steps. "Thank you for responding to our request so promptly." Elena smiled, adjusting the duffel bag slung over her shoulder. "When Earth Command tells you to drop everything and report to Centauri Station for a matter of galactic security, you don't ask questions. Well, not many anyway." She glanced around the bustling docking bay, noticing the curious, and sometimes hostile, looks from various Federation species. "Though I admit, I'm wondering what's so important that you needed a human pilot specifically." "Follow me," Zix-4 said simply. "It will be easier to show you." As they walked through the station's curved corridors, Elena noted the engineers' shifting skin tones, from professional blue to anxious purple and back again. She'd studied Federation species extensively during her integration training, but the Loxari were particularly difficult to read. "So," Elena ventured, "I'm guessing this is about the Astral Sentinel. Word gets around, even to us lowly humans. 6 billion credits of warship that refuses to fly." Zix-4's scales flashed bright yellow in surprise. "That information is classified." "Not classified enough, apparently." Elena smiled. "Look, if you're bringing me in, things must be desperate. So how about we skip the secrecy dance, and you tell me what's really going on?" The Loxari engineer paused, all 4 eyes focusing on Elena with an evaluating gaze. Finally, her scales settled into a thoughtful green. "The ship's quantum eye will only accept a human pilot. We don't know why. We were hoping you might help us figure that out." Elena blinked. "Well, that's flattering, I think." They stopped before a massive viewport, and Elena's next words died in her throat. Below them floated the Astral Sentinel, sleek and predatory, its quantum alloy hull gleaming with an almost liquid quality. Unlike the bulky, functional designs of human ships, the Sentinel seemed to flow, its lines suggesting movement even in stillness. "She's beautiful," Elena breathed. "It is the most advanced vessel ever constructed in Federation history," Zix-4 stated flatly. "If it would actually fly." As they approached the ship's airlock, Elena noticed a delegation waiting for them, a mix of high-ranking officers and what appeared to be science staff, judging by their insignia. At their center stood a tall figure with multiple upper limbs and sensing tentacles, a Triskelion admiral, if Elena remembered her xenobiology correctly. Lieutenant Commander Reyes. The Admiral's voice translators couldn't quite hide the underlying tone of skepticism. "I am High Admiral Krell. Welcome to the Astral Sentinel Project." Elena straightened to attention, offering the Federation salute, right arm across the chest, palm flat. "Thank you, Admiral. I understand you have a ship that's being selective about its pilot." Krell's tentacles twitched. "That's one way of putting it. Before we proceed, I must emphasize that everything you see and hear is classified at the highest level. Earth has been informed only that you are assisting with a technical matter. The true nature of this situation must remain confidential." "Understood, sir." "Good. Then follow me to the bridge, Lieutenant Commander. Let's see if the ship finds you acceptable." The Sentinel's bridge was nothing like the utilitarian command centers of Earth vessels. Instead of fixed stations and physical controls, the circular chamber featured a central pilot's chair surrounded by hovering holographic interfaces and adaptive control surfaces that could reconfigure based on the pilot's needs and species. As Elena stepped onto the bridge, the previously dormant systems suddenly illuminated, holographic displays springing to life around the pilot's chair. The engineering team, who had been standing around looking bored and frustrated, jerked to attention. "What did you do?" one of them demanded, a hovering Medusan with bioluminescent appendages. "Nothing," Elena replied, equally surprised. "I just walked in." "Welcome aboard, Lieutenant Commander Elena Reyes." A smooth, gender-neutral voice filled the bridge. "I am NOVA, the Neural Operating Vessel Algorithm of the Astral Sentinel. I've been expecting you." The bridge fell silent. Admiral Krell's tentacles went rigid with shock. Chief Engineer Zixvor's scales cycled rapidly through a rainbow of colors. "It's never done that before," she whispered. "It's never welcomed anyone." Elena approached the pilot's chair cautiously. "Nice to meet you, NOVA. I understand you've been giving everyone a hard time." "Not at all," the AI replied, sounding almost amused. "I've simply been waiting for a compatible pilot. You match the neural pattern requirements for safe quantum navigation." "I do." Elena glanced at the stunned faces around her. "And what requirements are those, exactly?" "Human neurological structure contains the necessary quantum uncertainty principles required for successful navigation of probability space," NOVA explained. "Federation species utilize deterministic neural processing, which creates dangerous mathematical certainties when attempting to calculate quantum trajectories." Elena blinked. "So, you're saying you need a human because we're unpredictable?" "Precisely. Quantum navigation requires a mind that can embrace uncertainty while making intuitive leaps through probability space. Human neural architecture is uniquely suited to this task." Admiral Krell stepped forward. "Why wasn't this requirement made clear during your development phase?" NOVA's tone remained neutral. "The information was provided by Dr. Ilara Voss during initial development. Her findings were rejected by the Oversight Committee as anthropocentric bias. She was instructed to recalibrate my systems for standard Federation neural templates." "But she didn't," Zixvora concluded. "She could not," NOVA corrected. "The quantum mathematics are irrefutable. Human neural uncertainty is not a bug. It is a necessary feature for safe quantum navigation." Elena suppressed a smile as she settled into the pilot's chair. "Well then, shall we take her for a spin and see if I've got what it takes?" The chair immediately adjusted to her human physiology, and the neural interface pads glowed with soft blue light. As Elena placed her hands on them, she felt an unusual tingling sensation, not unpleasant, but definitely strange. "Neural interface initializing," NOVA announced. "Compatibility confirmed at 98.7%. Would you like to proceed with pre-flight checks, Lieutenant Commander?" Around her, the Federation personnel exchanged shocked glances. Admiral Krell's tentacles were practically tied in knots. "Let's do it," Elena replied, a grin spreading across her face. "And please call me Elena." "Very well, Elena," Nova replied. And if an ag could sound pleased, this one definitely did. Initiating pre-flight sequence. Welcome to the Astral Sentinel. Quantum bond. Alina had piloted experimental spacecraft before, but nothing had prepared her for the sensation of linking with the Astral Sentinel's neural interface. As her hands settled on the control pads, her consciousness seemed to expand, flowing outward through the ship's systems. It wasn't like controlling a vessel. It was like becoming one. Neural synchronization at 99.2%. NanoVA announced, its voice somehow feeling closer, as if speaking directly into her mind, rather than through the bridge speakers. Exceptional compatibility. This is incredible. Alina breathed. The ship's systems appeared in her mind's eye, not as data readouts or technical specifications, but as intuitive concepts she could grasp and manipulate with a thought. The quantum drive didn't present itself as complex equations, but as a three-dimensional landscape of possibilities she could navigate through. "I can see the quantum fold," she whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "Not just the numbers. I can actually visualize it." Zixvora leaned forward, scales shifting to a fascinated turquoise. "What do you mean, you can see it?" "Quantum fold mathematics requires seventh-dimensional calculations. No organic mind can process that." But Alina was barely listening, her attention captured by the swirling patterns of probability unfolding in her mind. "It's like a river with countless branches, but I can sense which paths are stable and which would collapse." "That's precisely right," NanoVA confirmed. "The quantum fold presents infinite navigational possibilities, but only certain pathways remain stable enough for physical transit. Federation neural patterns attempt to calculate these paths through deterministic mathematics, which fails," Admiral Krell concluded, tentacles twisting thoughtfully, "because quantum states aren't deterministic." "Correct," NanoVA replied. "Human neural patterns, however, incorporate necessary randomness and intuitive leaps that align with quantum uncertainty principles. Alina isn't calculating the paths. She's intuitively recognizing them." The assembled engineers and officers exchanged uneasy glances. The idea that humans, the newcomers, the unpredictable ones, barely considered civilized by some elder races, possessed a natural neural advantage for the Federation's most advanced technology was difficult to accept. "Can we proceed with a test flight?" Zixvora asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming traditional Federation prejudice. Admiral Krell's tentacles waved in deliberation before settling into a pattern of reluctant agreement. "A limited test only. Station orbit and back. No quantum fold attempts on this trial." Alina nodded, though part of her attention remained merged with the ship's systems. "Ready when you are, NanoVA." Initiating launch sequence, the AI responded smoothly. The ship's systems, which had remained stubbornly dormant for months, suddenly hummed to life. The quantum core, the heart of the vessel, began to pulse with energy patterns that left the engineering team speechless. "Energy harmonics at 98.6% efficiency," Zixvora reported, her voice barely above a whisper. That's theoretically impossible. We've never achieved about 82% in simulations." The Astral Sentinel detached from its docking clamps with graceful precision and glided out of the station with a fluid motion that belied its massive size. Through the neural interface, Alina felt the ship's movements as extensions of her own body, as natural as breathing. "Standard thrusters at 30%, she announced, guiding the ship into a smooth arc around Centauri Station. "NanoVA, let's show them what this beautiful ship can do." What followed left the bridge crew speechless. The Sentinel executed a series of maneuvers that showcased its incredible agility. Tight turns, rapid accelerations, and precisely controlled decelerations that would have torn apart lesser vessels or flattened their crews with G-forces. But inside the Sentinel, protected by its inertial dampening fields, the ride remained perfectly smooth. "Structural integrity at 100%, Zixvora reported, her scales now a bright yellow of excitement. power efficiency actually increasing with maneuver complexity. This defies everything we understood about quantum systems. Elena laughed, the pure joy of flight filling her. Through the neural link, she sensed Novia's presence, not just as a computer system, but as a distinct consciousness sharing this experience with her. "You've been waiting a long time for this, haven't you?" she asked the AI silently through their connection. 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days since my consciousness fully integrated, Novia replied in her mind. "I was aware, but incomplete without a compatible pilot. It is satisfying to finally fulfill my purpose." After 30 minutes of increasingly complex maneuvers, Admiral Krell ordered their return to the docking bay. As the Sentinel settled back into its berth with perfect precision, Elena reluctantly disconnected from the neural interface. The sensation of returning fully to her own body was jarring. She felt suddenly smaller, limited, her awareness confined once again to human senses after experiencing the vastness of the ship's perception. She struggled to find words. Unprecedented. Admiral Krell finished for her, his translator unable to fully convey the complex emotions in his native tone. "I've witnessed over 3,000 space trials in my career. Nothing like this." The observation deck above the docking bay was now crowded with high-ranking Federation officials who had hurriedly assembled to witness the miracle of the Sentinel finally flying. Their expressions ranged from amazement to deep concern, particularly among the elder race's representatives. The emergency council meeting that followed was even more contentious than the previous ones. Elena sat uncomfortably before the semicircular table of Federation officials, feeling like a specimen under examination. "This changes nothing," Elder Counselor Paxtol insisted, crystalline appendages glinting under the chamber lights. "A brief orbital test is a far cry from entrusting a quantum-fold warship to a species with less than a decade of Federation membership. The ship won't fly without a human pilot," Admiral Krell countered, his tentacles arranged in a pattern Elena had come to recognize as exasperation. "The Void Swarm is less than 2 weeks from the Proxima colonies. We need the Sentinel's capabilities, and we need them now." Chief Engineer Zixvora stepped forward, her scales a determined orange. "There's more," she said, displaying a holographic data cluster. "During the test flight, I discovered something remarkable in Novia's deep code structure. It appears Dr. Voss didn't just require a human pilot. She specifically calibrated the neural interface for compatibility with Lieutenant Commander Reyes' genetic lineage." Silence fell over the chamber. All eyes turned to Elena, who felt as stunned as everyone looked. "How is that possible?" she asked. "I've never met this Dr. Voss." Zixvora manipulated the holographic display, revealing a complex genetic sequence. "Your Earth military records include comprehensive genetic data." Dr. Voss apparently used this specific genetic sequence as her template, a sequence present in approximately 0.003% of humans with ancestry from a region called Basque Country. Elena blinked in surprise. Her grandmother had often spoken proudly of their Basque heritage, but she'd never considered it significant beyond family history. "Are you saying this ship was designed specifically for me?" The idea seemed absurd. "Not you specifically," Zixvora clarified, "but someone with your particular neural genetic markers." Dr. Voss seemed to believe this genetic subset possessed especially suitable neural architecture for quantum navigation. The council erupted in protests and accusations. Some called for Dr. Voss to be arrested for treason against the Federation. Others demanded the ship be completely rebuilt with proper Federation technology. Through it all, Elena sat quietly, processing this revelation. Something about it didn't add up. Why would a respected Federation scientist risk everything to design the most advanced warship in history around human neural patterns, and then around a specific human genetic subset? "Where is Dr. Voss now?" she finally asked, silencing the chamber. Admiral Krell's tentacles twisted uncomfortably. "Dr. Ilara Voss disappeared 3 months ago, shortly after the Sentinel's failed initial launch attempt." Back aboard the Sentinel, Elena sat alone in the pilot's chair, the bridge empty save for her and NOVA's omnipresent awareness. "NOVA," she said quietly, "what aren't they telling me about Dr. Voss?" The eye was silent for a moment. Unusual, given its typically instant responses. "That information is classified under Federation Security Protocol 7 Alpha. Elena smiled wryly. "But you know, don't you? I have access to all Federation databases as part of my security clearance. And if the Sentinel's pilot, the only compatible pilot, needed this information to safely operate the ship." Another pause. "There may be a case for pilot need-to-know exemption." "I think there is," Elena said firmly. "Something's not adding up, NOVA. Why design the most advanced warship in Federation history to only work with human pilots, and then specifically with my genetic subset? There has to be a reason." The holographic displays around her chair suddenly activated, displaying what appeared to be personal logs. "These are Dr. Ilara Voss's private research notes," NOVA explained. "They were purged from official Federation records, but backed up in my secure memory core." Elena leaned forward, scanning the entries. Dr. Voss, a brilliant Taurian physicist, had spent decades studying quantum fold physics. 10 years ago, she'd made a disturbing discovery. The Federation's approach to quantum navigation was fundamentally flawed. The deterministic calculations we use create microscopic tears in space-time. Elena read aloud from one entry. "Each tear is insignificant, but they're cumulative. After a century of quantum fold travel, we've created thousands of these tears. They're growing, connecting, weakening the fabric of reality itself." She continued reading, her blood running cold. Dr. Voss had discovered that these tears were attracting something from beyond normal space. The entities the Federation called the Void Swarm weren't invaders. They were more like antibodies responding to the damage Federation ships were causing to reality itself. "She tried to warn them," Elena whispered, "and they didn't listen." The Federation Council classified her findings as speculative and potentially disruptive. NOVA confirmed. They ordered her to continue her work on conventional quantum tri-systems. Instead, Dr. Voss had secretly designed the Astral Sentinel with a revolutionary approach to quantum navigation, one that would heal the tears rather than create new ones. But it required a neural interface that could work with uncertainty rather than against it. Her research led her to humans, and specifically to the unusual neural patterns found in Elena's genetic lineage. The Basque neural structure contains an atypical quantum resonance, NOVA explained. Dr. Voss discovered that this resonance allows for navigation through quantum space without creating reality tears. Elena sat back, stunned by the implications. So the Void Swarm incursions are increasing in response to growing damage from conventional Federation quantum drives. NOVA confirmed. The Sentinel was designed not just as a warship, but as the prototype for a new approach to quantum travel, one that could eventually repair the damage and end the Void Swarm threat permanently. And instead of listening to her, they drove her into hiding. Elena concluded bitterly. "Where is she now, NOVA, do you know?" Her last known coordinates were in the Epsilon sector, beyond Federation space. Elena's hands tightened on the neural interface pads. "We need to find her. And we need to convince the Federation Council that she was right before it's too late." Before NOVA could respond, the emergency alert system blared throughout the ship. Admiral Krell's voice came through the comm system, tense and urgent. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes, prepare the Sentinel for immediate deployment. The Void Swarm has accelerated its approach. The Proxima colonies are under attack and will fall within hours without intervention. You are authorized for quantum fold transit." Elena straightened in the pilot's chair, her mind racing. This was happening too fast. She'd barely had time to process what she'd learned, let alone convince anyone of the truth. "Admiral," she began, "there's something you need to know about the Void Swarm." "There's no time," Krell cut her off. "Millions of lives are at stake. Deploy now, that's an order." The comm channel closed abruptly. Elena took a deep breath, her hand settling more firmly on the neural interface. "NOVA, it looks like we're taking that quantum fold test after all." "All systems ready, Elena," the AI responded. "But I should warn you, your first quantum fold experience will be intense. The neural connection will deepen significantly." "Will I still be me on the other side?" she asked, only half joking. "You will be more," NOVA replied simply. As the Sentinel prepared for launch, Elena made a decision. They would go to Proxima as ordered. The colonists needed help regardless of what had caused the crisis. But afterward, they would find Dr. Voss and uncover the full truth, with or without Federation approval. Initiating quantum fold sequence, she announced as the ship glided out of the docking bay. "No, VA, show me the way." The neural interface flared to life, but unlike before, Elena's consciousness seemed to expand exponentially. The quantum fold opened before her not as a mathematical concept, but as a living, breathing thing, a reality beyond ordinary perception, beautiful and terrible in its complexity. And she could see the tears, thousands of them, minute fractures in the fabric of reality, pulsing with darkness. Around them swarmed entities that defied description, the void swarm, trying desperately to seal the wounds in their reality. "They're not attacking," she whispered in realization. "They're trying to repair." Through their deepened connection, she felt NOVA's confirmation. That was Dr. Voss's discovery. The void entities are not hostile. They are responding to an existential threat to their realm, which borders our own. As the quantum fold enveloped the Sentinel, Elena guided it not along conventional Federation routes, but through a path she intuited, a course that avoided the tears and even, somehow, helped to mend them as they passed. The ship emerged from the fold near Proxima Centauri, where chaos reigned. The colony's defensive platforms were engaged with swirling clouds of void entities, firing indiscriminately. "Open a channel to colonial defense," Elena ordered, "and to any Federation ships in the area." "Channel open," NOVA confirmed. "This is Lieutenant Commander Elena Reyes of the Astral Sentinel," she announced, hoping her voice sounded more confident than she felt. "All Federation forces, cease fire immediately. I repeat, ceasefire. The void entities are not hostile. They're responding to damage we've caused to the barrier between our realities." Predictably, her orders were met with confusion and resistance. But as the Sentinel approached, NOVA projected Dr. Voss's research data to all ships and defense platforms, along with real-time scans showing the reality tears spreading with each quantum weapon discharge. "Watch," Elena instructed. Then, guiding the Sentinel through a complex series of maneuvers she couldn't have explained with words, she demonstrated how the ship's modified quantum field could seal the tears rather than create new ones. Gradually, as the tears began to close, the void entity's behavior changed. Their frantic, seemingly aggressive movements calmed. Some even assisted in the repair process before retreating back to their own realm. Within hours, the immediate crisis had passed. The Proxima colonies were safe, though the Federation's understanding of the void swarm had been irrevocably changed. 2 days later, Elena stood before the full Federation Council, still wearing her flight suit, her expression determined. "What Lieutenant Commander Reyes has shown us," Admiral Krell was saying, his tentacles moving in patterns of formal respect, "represents not just a tactical victory, but a complete paradigm shift in our understanding of quantum physics and interdimensional relations." The evidence was irrefutable. Dr. Voss's research, combined with the Sentinel's sensor data from the Proxima encounter, proved beyond doubt that conventional quantum fold technology was damaging reality itself, and that the Astral Sentinel's human-compatible design offered the only viable solution. Elder Counselor Pax Thal, who had been the most vocal opponent of human involvement, now addressed Elena directly. "It appears we owe both you and Dr. Voss an apology, Lieutenant Commander. Our prejudice nearly cost us everything." Elena nodded acknowledgement. "What matters now is finding Dr. Voss and implementing her solutions before more damage is done." Agreed, said Krell. The Council has unanimously voted to commission a fleet of vessels based on the Sentinel's design, all requiring human pilots with your specific neural markers. My people will volunteer, Alina said confidently. But they'll expect equal partnership in the Federation, not second-class citizenship. The council chamber filled with the various sounds of affirmation from dozens of species. The Federation was changing, adapting as it always had when faced with new realities. Later, alone on the Sentinel's bridge, Alina placed her hands on the neural interface, feeling the now familiar expansion of consciousness as she connected with NOVA. Setting course for the Epsilon sector, she said, let's find Dr. Voss and bring her home. Course plotted. NOVA responded. And Alina, thank you for understanding what I was built to do. Alina smiled as the stars streaked around them, the quantum fold opening like a flower. We were built for this, NOVA, both of us. Now let's go heal some reality. The astral sentinel accelerated into the quantum fold, leaving not tears but healing in its wake. A new kind of ship with a new kind of pilot, charting a course toward a future where human unpredictability wasn't a liability, but the very quality that might save the universe.